As Malcolm walked through the jet bridge and into Denver International Airport, the woman's apology still echoed faintly in his mind, but he didn't linger on it. It wasn't the first time he'd dealt with ignorance, and it wouldn't be the last. He moved with purpose, weaving through the crowd, his thoughts already shifting to the reason he was in Denver, an undercover operation targeting a human trafficking ring. It was ugly work, but someone had to do it, and Malcolm was good at it. Still, as he waited for his ride outside the terminal, the encounter on the plane refused to fully leave him. He pulled out his phone and typed a quick message to his supervisor. Made it to Denver. Had an incident on the plane. Resolved without issue. He paused, then added, "We'll write up full report later. No delays to the operation." His rideshare arrived, and he slid into the back seat. The city skyline loomed in the distance, but Malcolm's mind drifted again, not to the operation, but back to the plane. Earlier, mid-flight, the woman sat rigid beside him, the tray table down, hands clasped tightly. Her face remained flushed, her jaw clenched. The mood around them had shifted. Several passengers had exchanged knowing glances. Others had smiled discreetly in Malcolm's direction, but she hadn't spoken again, not after the badge. Malcolm, meanwhile, had kept calm. Years of field work had taught him control, how to read people, how to assess threats, how to remain calm under pressure. But even with all that training, encounters like this never sat right. It wasn't the first time someone had tried to weaponize fear against him. The first time had been in high school, when a store clerk followed him around accusing him of shoplifting. The last time was just 2 months ago, when a hotel guest assumed he was a valet and threw him car keys. But this woman accusing him of being a threat on a plane, had felt especially dangerous. Accusations like that, in the wrong context, could end lives. He sipped his ginger ale slowly, eyes scanning the cabin. He'd clocked at least 4 other passengers who'd been watching closely. A man in a suit, 2 rows ahead, a younger woman across the aisle, a mother with 2 kids, and the man behind them who'd made the snide comment. They had all seen what happened, and more importantly, how quickly it escalated without cause. The woman finally shifted beside him. "Do you travel often?" she asked, her voice stiff. Malcolm raised an eyebrow, glanced at her. "I do." "I don't fly much," she muttered. "I guess I just get nervous. You never know these days." Malcolm didn't respond. "I shouldn't have said those things," she continued, voice barely audible. "I just thought I didn't know." "You didn't need to know," Malcolm said, not unkindly. "You just needed to show respect." She shrank back in her seat but nodded. He didn't say more. It wasn't his job to teach her. He had more important things to focus on. After the flight, as he waited for his luggage at the carousel, Malcolm felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned. It was the man from the row behind. "Hey, I just wanted to say, that was handled like a pro. People like her, they need to be called out. Glad you showed her what's what." Malcolm gave a polite nod. "Appreciate it." "She was out of line," the man continued. "Crazy how quick people assume things." Malcolm's expression didn't change, but his voice had an edge. "Crazy how often it happens." The man paused, nodded, then gave a brief, awkward laugh before walking away. Malcolm picked up his bag and headed toward the exit. That night, at a downtown Denver hotel, Malcolm sat at his laptop typing his report for the bureau. The incident on the flight wasn't officially related to his assignment, but protocol required documentation. As he typed, he kept the tone professional, factual, no emotion, no commentary, just the facts. Passenger expressed suspicion due to my presence. Requested I be removed. I identified myself as FBI to de-escalate. Flight attendant confirmed no policy violation, no further issues. He paused, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then, he typed a final line. No action needed. Recommend sensitivity training for airline staff to better handle bias-related passenger complaints. He hit send. Leaning back in his chair, Malcolm glanced at the TV. The news was on, another report of racial profiling at a department store. He shook his head. Some things didn't change, but that didn't mean they couldn't be challenged. The next day, at the Denver field office, Malcolm met with Special Agent in Charge Sarah Park. A seasoned agent with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, Park had worked with Malcolm on several cases. "You handled the plane situation well," she said, glancing up from his report. "We've seen those get out of hand." "Didn't want to delay the op," Malcolm replied. "Still," she said, leaning back, "it's exhausting, being under that microscope." Malcolm nodded. "It's part of the job." "No," Park said, shaking her head. "It's part of your reality. Shouldn't have to be." Malcolm appreciated the honesty. Park had always been one of the good ones, someone who didn't just talk about diversity, but actually backed it up with action. "Anyway," she said, setting the report aside, "we've got work to do. You ready?" Malcolm's expression sharpened. "Always." 1 week later, Malcolm stood on a dark street corner, dressed in civilian clothes, watching a warehouse through a pair of binoculars. The sting operation was minutes from going down. His mind was fully in the moment, alert, focused, ready. But in a small, quiet corner of his thoughts, the memory of the plane ride lingered, not the discomfort or even the confrontation, but the badge, not just a symbol of authority, but a symbol of truth. That sometimes standing tall with dignity was the most powerful response, because power didn't come from proving others wrong. It came from knowing who you were, regardless of who doubted you.